You can tell, looking through the schedule, we've got it all planned out for you. We've got your year planned out for you. Do you like that or not? Well, excuse my voice. I'm so sorry. I woke up with a gravelly voice, so excuse that this morning. But we are so glad that you are here, and we have a top-notch panel here for you today to learn and to glean from, and then to use it going forward. First person I want to introduce you to is Casey. And Casey is a representative of Francis Tuttle. I think this is a great venue. It's beautiful, lots of space. So tell us a little bit about Francis Tuttle, Casey.
First off, we are so thankful that you guys are here today, and welcome to our campus. Francis Tuttle actually has 4 campuses. We have one on Reno, on the south side of Oklahoma City, one at Rockwell, which is kind of our flagship campus, one at Portland, and then of course this is our newest facility, and it's absolutely beautiful. And this facility is it's paid for by ad valorem taxes and our taxpayers, and so we love having you guys here because you guys are our taxpayers. So we love opening our doors and having you guys here and being able to educate you and learn something new. And I hope you come back every single month. I'm going to start bringing some little opportunities for you to have. We have lots of open enrollment classes where you can learn to sew or cook. Lots of fun things, and so next time we
Awesome.
I'll have that for you guys. But we're thankful you're here. Glad to have you. I hope you have a wonderful day.
And now she's going to do something very important. She's going to get more
Make
coffee.
coffee.
All right,
We've already exhausted the coffee. Go get some
So
more coffee.
she's going to go get more coffee for us,
Yeah.
and she'll wave when that's done, and
Yeah.
I'll say something. So you can go back. Feel free throughout the seminar if you want some water, coffee. That's there for you. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, we have decided, I'm real excited about our next, we're going to move into the next phase. Every month we're going to spotlight some of our sponsors, because this would not be possible without them. And I encourage you to go by the tables, get to know them, talk with them, and make appointments to go tour, to go see what they can do for you, provide for you. That's all free of charge, of course. So I'm going to turn it over. Come on up. This is one of our sponsors. This is their second year to be one of our sponsors. Julie and Susan represent Touchmark. So I'm going to let them spotlight and tell us a little about Touchmark.
Well, thank you for letting us be a part of this. So we want to share a little bit about Touchmark as a company and then our community. So this year we are celebrating our 45th year in service to our families. We have one dedicated group of owners made up entirely of Touchmark team members. We have 0 investors, so you don't have to worry about us being bought or sold. We are a full-service retirement community located in North Edmond. We have single-family homes that range anywhere from 1,500 to 2,300 square feet. We have villas that are about 1,300 with a one-car attached garage. We have apartments in the building ranging anywhere from studios to they're called grands. They're almost 1,400 square feet apartments. And then we have assisted living and memory care. We have 4 neighborhoods that are memory care divided by level, which is nice.
Right. And all of our homes, apartments, anything in the building and the villas are just monthly rental. You don't have to pay a big buy-in fee.
Right. So a little bit about our community, some of the amenities that we have. We have Charlie's Bistro, which was named after our owner's brother. And then we have Thunder Alley Pub. It's a fully licensed pub. You can order food in there as well, but you can get some beverages too. We have a health and
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, and your meal allowance, you can eat in any of the different venues. So it gives you a lot of choices.
Right. We have a health and fitness studio in our basement. They do group fitness classes. They have the equipment. They have a ping pong table. They have a Wii bowling that they'll play games, Mario Kart. They do all levels of fitness. Our fitness director meets with every resident and assigns them a level so they know what classes are appropriate for them.
Fully seated to fully standing up, Tai Chi, chair yoga, anything you want. I think they just started their little jazzercise class too.
Yes. We have the Full Life Wellness and Enrichment Program. So they're doing anything from games, crafts, we'll do a men's and women's dinners, Wind Down Wednesday, quarterly themed parties, like we've done a luau, speakeasy, casino nights, things like that. We have a readers theater, detectives club, Bible study, drum club, concerts, etc.
Yeah, book club, genealogy club, a group of all of our aeronautical gentlemen get together, and they just love it.
We have a concierge service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's somebody at our front desk there. If you need something in the middle of the night, you call down and they're there. Housekeeping services applies to all living areas, whether you're in the single-family homes or in the building, you're still getting housekeeping. We have a barber salon and a beauty salon. They do men's and women's hair, manicures and pedicures. How long has she been there?
About 14 years,
Yeah,
yeah. Her name's Tammy, and her daughter even works in our memory care beauty salon.
So it's kind of a family affair.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, just got her a pedicure chair a couple of years ago, so they love that.
We have a library, a game room, a billiards dart room. We'll turn our grand hall into a movie theater. We'll pull down the big screen and do matinees on Wednesdays. I have to write my notes, otherwise I'll forget stuff. And we have 2 restaurant-style dining rooms and a private dining room for special events. We do not separate our assisted living from independent as far as dining and activities, so you can use whichever dining room you like, wherever your friends are. Underground parking for people that live in the main building, and then we have golf cart parking in the back for people that are coming from our single-family homes driving over. They have their own little special parking spots. We have guest suites, so if you have out-of-town visitors that need a place to stay and you don't want them in your apartment or in your home, then they can rent a room like a hotel room there. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, just fully furnished apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, so they stay pretty full, so I always say book ahead of time.
Yes. So the Touchmark story is about family, hard work, and a lifelong commitment to enriching the lives of people we serve. That's kind of the values that our founder started and continues to this day. We live and hire for people that will share those values.
I just want to touch on something that she just said, that because I had a client that's wife was there in memory care. One thing that's really nice about when she was in assisted living first is that she could continue to go to the dining room she was familiar with. Just because you've been moved to the assisted living, you can still cross over and have dinner, maybe with the spouse or with the little table of your friends.
Right. We want you to stay with your friends as long as possible.
Stay social, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and families can even bring our memory care residents out to eat in the main dining room
Oh,
too.
wonderful.
So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. This is right here. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, as you see before you, we have a list of our dates, our schedule, and then the next page there's some notes for you to follow along with our question time, and so jot down your questions because we're going to do Q&A at the end. Okay, so save your questions. So as you're taking notes, if a question comes to your mind, jot it down on the notes. It is a front and back. That first page is front and back. So I wanted to draw your attention to that. And then we have a glossy of our schedule for the whole year. And I just really want to let you know, I'm going to have Emily stand up real quick. Emily will be at the back of the room at the close. And if you have a Sunday school class or some kind of club that you go to, or your church, or the gym, or whatever, if you have a group of people and you want to share, take a handful of those to put out wherever so that we can get it out, that we're having free educational seminars that cover a gamut of topics. And we also have, if you have friends or family in the Norman, Moore area out there like Newcastle, Tuttle, we also mirror this seminar in Norman at the Norman Adult Wellness Center. And the address is on that. So if you have friends or someone that would like to join us there. It's totally free there as well. And there is, the difference with that one is there is no sign up, there is no registration. You just come there because the wellness center is in charge of all of that. So I do want to, so she'll have all that back there for you. Please be sure. And then the very last thing, please, during the Q&A time, if at all possible, fill out that evaluation form. That's how we have new ideas from you, what you'd like to hear, what you'd like to be involved in. So be sure and do that. All right, well, we're moving right along here. We're going to, if I can do the right thing, I'm going to ask my panelists to come up here. Brian Hill, he is a partner with Baltimore Slow. And we have John Dodson, and he is Chief Investment Officer for Ford Financial. So I'm so thrilled to have you guys. Turn on your mics. Everybody gets a mic when we have the three, so that's kind of fun.
There it is.
And yes, I'm going to start with you, John. We're going to this is just casual conversation for your learning. And oops, I'm dropping everything, right? Thank you. Sorry. I'm going to have you go ahead and start for us, Brian. Tell us a little bit about you and what you can offer all of us.
Well, thank you. I'm an attorney. The great thing about being an attorney is I get to say all the attorney jokes and get to hear good attorney jokes. So if you guys have good ones, I'd love to hear them. But I'm an attorney with Baltimore Slow. We are a full-service law firm with offices in Stillwater, Edmond, Oklahoma City, and Norman. So everything from family law to estate planning to litigation and everything in between. I grew up here in Oklahoma City and just have a love of estate planning and trust, and want to share that passion with you guys. And we're really excited to be here today and get to partner with professionals like John and his group.
Great, thank you. John.
My name is John Dodson. I'm a financial advisor and Chief Investment Officer at Forge Financial. We've been in Edmond for over 20 years. We were formerly Shaw Financial Services, so if you've ever heard that name, we changed our name last year. Our 20th anniversary, we changed our name to Forge Financial. We have an office here in Edmond and an office in Tulsa. 13 advisors spread out through those two locations. I also handle long-term care insurance planning for the office, and that's how I met Connie a couple years ago.
3 years ago.
Touring some facilities, and asked me to come speak here, and I'm honored to be here to hopefully give you guys some good knowledge.
And I had the great privilege of working with some of your clients, and I just appreciate that. They were just a joy. Joe was a hoot, the son. I worked with the adult child and the mother. So we love it. We love it, working together. It's awesome. So we're going to go over some questions. I'm going to right up from the first. I'm going to throw you a curveball. Because it came to my attention, which I am so sorry about this, because we said about dealing with your adult children. Not everybody in that season of life has adult children or has a family member. So how important is that? Is this seminar for them?
I think this is crucial. You know, as we go through life and we hit this next stage, next season of life, we want to know what's it going to be like? What kind of comfort are we going to have? What kind of peace of mind do we need? And John and I were visiting earlier. There's no doubt that many advisors make for a wise decision. Guys like John and his team to help you manage your finances, to make sure the bills are being paid, make sure things are moving when you can't get to it, creating an estate plan with powers of attorney to name specific people. And if you don't have someone, you don't have a deep bench, or maybe you do, and you don't want to name that person, that's great. An estate planning attorney can help you navigate that. There are professionals that can step in to fill those roles. You just have to build a team so you are comfortable with that next stage. But the biggest thing is don't wait. John and I talked about that earlier. You will hear that 1,000 times this morning. Don't wait. So if you don't have children, and if you don't have children that you want to trust, or maybe they're geographically far away, don't let that intimidate you. Don't let that stop you from getting advisors.
And still having those important documents. Like it's important to have a beneficiary, or making sure that, tell us a little bit about that, John, and what they need to have in place. Because if you aren't proactive and fill out these forms and have them established. Who takes over?
Very good, and there's many different areas that come into play. Beneficiaries is a very good one right now. There's some new rules involved when it comes to the inheritance of assets, especially if they're retirement assets. So it's really, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's based on your individual situation. That's where you want to visit with your advisor, let them know what the situation is, and we can help walk you through what we recommend. There's some times where obviously charities are involved. There's certain areas where you want the charity to be a beneficiary, certain areas where you don't want the charity to be a beneficiary. So tax reasons there. We mentioned earlier, having a team approach, having a great estate planning attorney, a good financial advisor. I'm not going to say great, but a good financial advisor. Having a CPA that you trust is also part of the team that you need to have. We've been affiliated with Dave Ramsey for over 20 years, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey, but he preaches about having a legacy file where all of your places, all your important documents are in one central location, so that those loved ones, whoever it may be, and it may not be a child, it may be a friend, maybe a cousin, a nephew, niece, that happens a lot of times as well, where they're going to be the power, they're going to have the executors of the estate, and they're going to need to know where these documents are, who is the trust attorney, who is the financial advisor, who is the CPA, how do I get in contact with these people? Let them know where that legacy file is.
So even more, and we'll go to you just a second, communication. Just keep that communication going.
That's great. So when we do estate planning, and we are a really, really good estate planning firm, right? But there are other good ones out there. So I don't mean to say that we're the best. I'm a little biased. However, when we do our estate planning, our clients leave with a binder. Inside that binder is a list of things and how to use the documents and who to contact. And inside that binder is digital copies, and we keep a digital copy on our server. We are not the only law firm that does that, but when you're done with your estate planning, not only should you have the tool in your hand, you should know where that tool is kept, right? Your safe place documents, maybe on the top shelf, or in your safety deposit box. And, most importantly, you should know how to use that tool. If you get a tool, you pay a bunch of money for it, and it hits the top shelf, and you don't know how to use it, you're not comfortable with it, you won't use it. So you should be comfortable knowing how to use your trust, how to use your power of attorney, your healthcare power of attorney, who would do this, and create a plan and a process where people know if something happens to you, how does this machine keep working? Who steps in next? Who's the backup quarterback that comes off the bench? How do they know when it's time to come off the bench? What are their roles? What are the limitations? So communicate early and often.
Yes, and I will say this over and over. They say don't wait. I say be proactive rather than reactive, because your choices diminish if you wait till be reactive. Right?
We have a saying, raise your hand if you have an estate plan, don't do it. But everyone already has an estate plan. The state of Oklahoma has a plan for your assets.
If you don't do it,
The state doesn't get them, that's a misnomer, that's a very end solution. But the misnomer is that if you don't have an estate plan, it goes to the state of Oklahoma. The state of Oklahoma decides how your assets are going to be divided up. It's called probate. If you want to change that plan, you need to create a will and a trust to follow your wishes, right? The best time to create an estate plan was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. Don't wait to do that, right? Don't be intimidated by that process. Reach out and do it. And be proactive in making your decision.
Yes, and a lot of people, I think we probably would get to it on down here, but a lot of people think, oh my goodness, I don't have enough to do a trust. I don't own enough to do a trust. I'm not wealthy enough to do a trust. And that is really incorrect, because you will be paying for litigation.
That's right. Okay, here comes the first
And
attorney.
probate is, right? Probate is more expensive.
That's right. Here's the first attorney joke. Who wins when attorneys get involved? Attorneys, right? So let's get attorneys out of it, right? We make
Your wishes.
a good living doing probates. And probate is what happened when there's no ownership of your asset, right? If I open an investment account with John and he makes it grow and it grows up, and he does a great job, and I know he always does, But if I'm the owner of that asset and I pass away, who gets it? The state of Oklahoma will require that asset to be probated to change title to it. Or I can create a trust, and a trust is an empty box, right? Think of an empty box. It's got a lot of fancy instructions on the side of it, or it's an expensive box, I understand that. But we put assets inside that box and we tell the world, hey, when I die, right, when I die, I want Connie to get this particular asset. I want her to get this car, this house, this account, this amount of money, but I gotta be very specific in my trust. And when we do that, when we put our assets in a box, we don't have to probate those. When we put the assets in a trust, we don't have to probate them. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
that way we're being proactive in that, and we are not letting the state of Oklahoma decide where our assets go. And we're taking charge by putting those inside a trust.
All righty. So what are the first steps seniors should take when planning to discuss estate and financial matters with their adult children?
Well, first off, I think you should gather all of your information. Your financial documents, your insurance documents, kind of like what we were talking about before, having a central legacy folder or file where everything's at. And for some people, that takes time. So that would be the first step, in my opinion.
Passwords.
Passwords, exactly. You know, it's great that your son is gonna be the executor, but if he doesn't know how to get into your computer, it's not gonna help him or her, help you with your affairs. So your financial documents, your insurance documents, your estate planning documents, all of those, if they're in your tax documents, if the more you can get in one location, takes a little bit of time to gather that and organize it, but once you've got it done, it's over with. And then the information for the contact information for everybody as well.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, I would think the first step is just that, is deciding that you need to do it, right? We're all nervous about our first step in a subject matter that we don't understand, right? If I'm gonna do investing and you came to me with $1 million or $10 to invest, I wouldn't know what to do. I would call John, right? I trust him implicitly. He does this all the time. When you're gonna go to a doctor, you trust the doctor that he or she's done this all the time. Don't be afraid of estate planning. Don't be afraid of financial planning. Don't be afraid of doing that. But I think the first step is talking to your children or talking to your team to tell them you're gonna start this process. Tell them that you're going to do it. Tell them you're going to move forward. I think that helps get the ball rolling.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm just going to this is going to be a fun question. How many of you don't want to discuss it with your children? Had that experience? Okay, great. This is a great group, right? I think that's great because usually I have one or two that say, my dad didn't share with me and I'm not sharing with them. You know, I mean, it's my business. They take care of their business. They take care of mine. But there's no way they're not mind readers. They don't know what you want. And they want to expedite what your wishes are.
Exactly. And when think about this, in your life, if there's a lack of information, people fill in the blanks with whatever they want to fill in. Oh, that must mean mom and dad love me the most. I'm getting everything. Or that must mean mom and dad hate me the most. I'm not getting anything, right? When there's a lack of information, we fill it in. So communicating and being intentional with your plan really helps the family dynamic flow very smoothly.
So what are some common challenges that you've witnessed when talking about these matters, estate and financial planning, and how can we overcome them?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones, I think John's gonna talk about this in just a second, is understanding how the finances work and where the money's gonna come from. That's very critical. From my perspective, I think the biggest challenge is the what if. Well, what if this person doesn't want to? Or what if they live in a different state? Or what if they're not good at it? Or what if they don't know how to do it? Or what if they need help? An estate planning attorney can help you navigate all those what ifs. That's my favorite question to ask was, well, what if this and what if that? So I think the biggest challenge in that place is just understanding, getting forward, moving forward in that process, and understanding what you want. If you can pick the end, for example, I want my assets to be divided 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. An estate planning attorney can make that happen very easily. So having a good destination in mind of your assets is helpful, but that's only part of it. Having your team know the financial picture is huge.
So, for my practice, the conversations are usually, do we have the estate planning in place? And if not, we're gonna recommend a great estate planning attorney, because they're the experts on that side of things. We wanna make sure that all those, everything's buttoned up. If they don't, then we're gonna talk about how do you wanna have it structured? The biggest hurdle that we see in this day and age, unfortunately, is mixed families. You get a lot of.
Blended,
you
right,
get a-
yes.
Yeah, and you get a lot of husband and wives that have their own families, and so you're typically gonna have a healthcare proxy and a financial proxy from, one, person's children, and then another one will have their children be the proxy for them as well. We see that a lot. Conversations, a lot of times you get with blended families, you get monies that are gonna stay separated. It's combined when it comes to the parents, but when it comes to the children, it's gonna typically stay. And then we try to help with those conversations, but really that's where the estate planning attorney comes in. Be open and honest with what you want to have done, because I'm assuming that once it's in writing, that's the way it's gonna be. It can always be amended, and we do recommend that you review your estate planning documents every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, we think every time there's a life event, or about 5 years, blow the dust off of it and see if it's still what you want. And if it is, great. If not, let's change it.
Because life happens, life
Right.
changes.
So Brian, let's let you answer this next question. How can seniors approach the topic of wills and trusts without causing tension or discomfort? You touched on that. So is it a good idea for you to be there for the conversation? Or is it a good idea for them to just maybe plan when most of the family can be together?
Connie, that's a great question. And then really the answer is, you know your family better than anybody. So if you have I'll just be honest, I have 3 kids. I love all 3 of them, but only 2 of them I like, right? If you have a strong-willed child or a person in your life and you don't want them to dominate the conversation, tell your attorney that, right? If you're afraid another child's gonna be walked over and won't be spoken for, tell your attorney that. It's okay to communicate that in advance. A lot of times, clients will pull me aside and say, look, I've got Bobby Sue and Sally Joe here, but man, this person will run right over them. I don't want that happening. I want them to know this, or I don't want them to influence me, or worse, I get this right here. They give me a high sign in the middle of a meeting, and I pull them out, and I said, what's wrong? I don't want this. My child's making me do this. Your attorney will be the bad guy or bad girl to make sure your wishes are taken care of. But what you say is protected by attorney-client privilege, so you can be totally transparent, and it's never going to be discussed with your kids. Your attorney can be the bad guy and say, okay, this is how it's going to be, no questions asked. Your attorney can tell the beneficiaries how it's going to be, or the attorney can facilitate an open discussion. Really, it's up to you, because you know your family better than anybody else, and you know their dynamics. Sometimes it's not just our kids that present the challenge, it's the in-laws that present the challenge, right? How are we going to navigate this? What are we going to do? In my experience, a lot of different ways. One of the ways that works very well is we tell people the plan, but we don't tell people necessarily how much. We just say, hey, when I die or when mom and dad pass away, we're going to go a third, a third, and a third. We're going to split it down the middle, right? And that's it. We stop the conversation. We don't tell them who's in charge. We don't tell them how much is there, right? Now, some families want to disclose all that, and that's fine. My favorite comment I get all the time was, well, mom and dad, they want me to be in charge because they love me the most. And I laugh, and I say, no. When you're the trustee or the personal representative, you just put a big target on your back. So pick the kid that you hate the most and name them trustee, because it's the worst job out there, right? It's a lot of work. A lot of people think it's an honor to be named that, but it's a hard job. It's a really hard job, not one to be taken lightly. So I would just say, customize your conversation with your attorney about what fits your needs best. It is not a one-size-fits-all. And if your attorney's not listening to you, your attorney's not hearing your statement, go to a different attorney. Just say, hey, this isn't working, I'm going somewhere else. And that's A-okay.
Sure, it's your choice, right? The other thing I would just say is, it's something from our Downsizing Made Easy seminar that we do, is that I think it's good to approach them, say, you know, hey, I'm not asking your permission, I'm sharing our vision of how we would like things to go. A lot of times that, it takes me out of the authority, I mean, they can just sit and listen then. I'm not asking your permission, I'm sharing with you. And so that's always a good way to handle that too. John, what are some strategies for ensuring that everyone in the family understands a retirement plan and their roles in it? I think, like if they're in the market, if they're in the, I mean, that's just not everybody's language, right? They don't understand draws. I mean, does it all quit right then if they pass? I mean,
So,
any investments that they have, right?
right, obviously, we spend a lot of time on education at our firm, so we hope that none of our clients have that question, but it always happens, right? And especially as we get close to retirement, because how often do you retire? You might change jobs 10 times, but you typically retire once. And then what does it look like? How does that whole distribution mode work? One of the things that I like to do, and I think what you're asking about is the family. How does the family understand everything? What I try to do is involve the children, the adult children, especially the person that has financial power of attorney. And as the clients get older, I actually want that person to be in the meetings, if at all possible, if geographically possible. Building a relationship with them, making sure that I have a clear understanding of the relationship between that person and the parents, because we don't want elder abuse. We can't give them any information outside of the meeting. As long as you consent to them having that information, I can give them information then and there, but outside of that, I cannot. So it's building that relationship, making sure that they understand what being a trustee entails, having the power of attorney. Power of attorney is while the parents are living, trustee is after they're deceased. It's a huge responsibility on both sides.
And can't you could have a child, one child be medical, one child be, financial, and then you can have, if they don't feel comfortable, you can even have them plan the second person.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you're planning out your team, and you're talking about who's gonna pay your bills, talking with your investment person, because that's critical to make sure if I'm in a nursing home or if I'm in an end-stage condition, I wanna know my bills are paid. I wanna make sure my electricity bill's paid. I wanna make sure I have money, and my investment team knows what I'm doing and how my money's being distributed. That's critical. John's team does a great job. I've worked with John's team before. They're fantastic. When you're building your personal plan, you will have, sometimes we call them a backup quarterback, right? We have person A, then person B, then person C. Sometimes B and C can serve together, right? So it's A and then B and C, right? So they can work together. And you know your family better than anybody. My kids can't agree on what kind of pizza to get. There's no way I'm gonna leave two of them in charge of paying my bills or making my medical decisions, because they'll fight. But it's personal to your choice. So you're exactly right. You can kind of create a batting order for your family based on your specific needs, and how that works inside there. But it is important to go very deep in that bench, right? Some people say, oh, when I get sick, my wife will take care of me. Well, that's great, but we need, remember the question, what if? Well, what if he or she is unwilling or unable? And what if that person's unwilling or unable? And what if that person's unwilling or unable? We like to go 3 or 4 deep in our bench, just to make sure all the spaces are covered.
And I think this next question talks about, in your experience, what are the most common misconceptions adult children have about their parents? I would say even touch on the misconceptions that the parents have. That if I sign a power of attorney, does that mean I've lost control?
Right, great, there's a lot of fear in that, right?
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean.
So power of attorney, and attorneys out there can be a little secret. Some attorneys are arrogant, and some attorneys are insecure, but most of us are both, right? We're arrogant and insecure, so we make things a little more complicated. But a power of attorney can be as much as you want. I can say, hey, I want to give John my power of attorney to sell my car, and that's it. It's a limited power of attorney. You can give him a power of attorney to sell both cars, or both my cars and my house, or a power of attorney to do everything, right? So when you're drafting your power of attorney, you could make it very limited, or you could make it very broad. Now, I have the authority to revoke that power of attorney whenever I want to. As long as I'm of sound mind, if I created it, then I can take it back. Another misconception is, well, I have power of attorney over mom and dad and they're deceased, so I get to make the decisions. Nope. Power of attorney is cut off at death. Power of attorney is cut off at death, right? So that's another misconception. The other misconception I hear all the time is, well, hey, I'm the trustee, I get to decide where all the stuff goes. No, you don't get to decide. The settlor, the person who created the trust, you guys, they decide where the stuff goes. The trustee just has to follow the instructions. I had somebody tell me that once. Well, I'm the personal representative, so I get to decide how mom and dad's stuff's divided up. No, you don't. All those things are taken care of. So there are a lot of misconceptions in there.
And I think too, I think it's important to have, this is my goal, I think it's good to have that power of attorney because we don't know what Plan B looks like. And so part of protecting your Plan B is if you are in a wreck, if you are in, if they don't have power of attorney, they can't, sign the checks, they can't continue to pay the bills, they can't, if you don't have a medical power of attorney, it's up to the doctor.
That's exactly right. And so there's two types of power of attorney. One is instant, right? I named my good friend John my power of attorney as soon as the ink is dry. That's a powerful one. Another one is a springing power of attorney.
Yes.
Right, that springs up when a doctor says, oh, Brian can't make decisions anymore. So now it springs to life. Now John can make those decisions, right? So there's two types of attorney, the powers of attorney generally.
John, do you have any comments on that, like your financial, when they don't have a beneficiary or?
Well, obviously, well, first off,
And long-term, like if they have, do they have life insurance? Do they have a,
right,
let's say that they have a health issue and the kids don't know they have a long-term care policy that can help them.
and again, that's where the communication comes into play. We talked about the financial information, the legal information, the tax information, but also the insurance information. Anytime I sell a long-term care policy to a client, I sit down with them and say, first Christmas, you need to sit down with your kids and say, this is an important document, this is what it is, and let's actually review it every few years just to refresh your memory, because hopefully you don't use that policy for 20 or 30 years, right?
Right.
But you need to make sure that the kids know where it's at. Who's going to be the person that's going to be dealing with the insurance company? Probably not going to be the person that's sick or is needing care, and it's probably not going to be the spouse because you're going to be distraught. It's going to be the child, probably the person that has financial power of attorney, or the person that's nearby that's going to be the supervisor of the caregiving. And so it's very important that they understand that. We just had a meeting the other day with the client. They brought their daughter in just so that she could understand what the policy was and how it works, because we're getting worried about mom.
Or they're thinking about downsizing, and it may not be into, also, let me just change the subject real quick, because it just came to me. They can be used at home as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think, oh, I have to go into an assisted living, or I have to go into a long-term care community before I can use it. And that's another option, because there's a lot of people that want to stay in place, right?
And most people.
Yes.
Most care begins in the home. There's no record of how long those stays are. It's not, can't be tracked right now. But guesses are 2 to 3 years for men, 2 to 3 years for women, before you would have to go into a facility. Now, facility care, we can track. We know the averages there. 2.5 years for women, or I'm sorry, 2.5 years for men, about 3.5 years for women in a facility. National averages, I hate averages, but
Right.
my grandmother needed.
Because I do want to
Yeah.
say, our community sponsors that we have, that's not the case. I mean, they're like full, because the people have gone there and they're living there, they didn't go there to die, they went there to live. The pressure, the maintenance pressure's off of them, the paying, for the home property insurance, for taxes, all that's lifted, and they get to go play, right? A cruise on land.
But the long-term care policy can be used anywhere, and that's a misconception with long-term care. The old policies that were founded in the 70s and 80s, they were for nursing home only. That's all we had.
That's right.
We didn't have assisted living centers. We didn't have in-home care services. That's where people want. The industry has evolved to that. All policies issued today will cover you anywhere you are.
And we have fabulous sponsors for that too, to help you stay at home.
And on a side note, in our estate planning, we put, with the client's decision, notations inside there that say it is my strong desire to stay at home as long as I can, as long as it's financially viable. Or some people say, no, I don't want to spend the money, I'd rather go here. But you can put that in your estate plan, inside your power of attorney, to say, hey, as long as my financial advisor says it's okay, as long as the long-term care policy kicks in, you can write that into your estate plan very easily. So if you think that you don't lose control and your kids are gonna ship you off somewhere so they can save money and you don't spend their inheritance, write that into your estate plan. Make sure it's very clear up front. That's your wishes to stay in your home as long as you can.
And as an adult child, I appreciated when my parents did talk to us about things, because I wanted to help, I wanted to do what they wanted done, and I wanted to follow their wishes. So lots of times that's the reaction too. It's like a load off for the friend or the family member. Maybe it's a sibling, a
Right.
sister or brother.
I mean, what a great gift to give to your family members is a plan, a well-executed,
Yes.
well-oiled plan. Hey, when this happens in my life, then this is the plan. They don't have to decide. They don't have to weigh it in. They don't have to come out of their pocket. They don't have to wrestle that, because you've already decided for yourself. And they honor you by following that plan. They honor you by working on their investments. They honor you by following your power of attorney and your advance directives and your estate plan. So yes, that's it. Probably the best gift you can give to your kids is lay that plan out. Make sure you connect to your financial advisor, that you have the finances to take care of this, and make sure your machine that you created is going to work.
One thing too that we always talk about is, and it may not be insurance. Insurance may not be the answer to your individual plan, but have a plan. Have a plan. Don't assume that you're going to continue to age forever and not need care. The odds are against you. So whether it be we're going to self-fund, a lot of people do that. We're going to have family take care of us, another form of self-funding. There's costs to everything. There's costs to the family. There's costs, somebody's going to have to forego vacations, forego advancements that they're
Or even
employment.
making the house
Yes.
prepared for you as you move along stages. That's very important, taking the carpet out, going to one level home, making the doors wider. Those, they
Proper
can
bathroom.
fund their, right,
Yeah.
right, making it easier access for them.
So just have a plan. Just have a plan. Speak with your financial advisor, speak with wise counsel, somebody that you trust. There are plenty of long-term care specialists in the area. We've been doing it for over 20 years as well. So we help all of our clients with that. We help people outside of our firm that aren't clients with long-term care insurance as well. But whether it be insurance is the answer, or is it what asset am I going to be spending down?
Right.
Is it going to be family? We do have clients that do have, daughters that are RNs or just LPNs that say, I'm going to step up, that's going to be my role in the family. That's a plan.
So Brian, we've touched on them, but can you give us a list of the legal documents that we should have in place?
Right.
Even if you're healthy, vital, going strong.
Right. I get this question a lot. It's kind of like asking a barber if you need a haircut. The answer is always yes. So everybody must have these 5 documents, right? Everybody needs to have a power of attorney in place, a healthcare power of attorney. Everybody needs a general durable power of attorney. I believe everybody needs a HIPAA in place. Now, we've all filled out 1,000 of those when we go to the doctor, but you need a broader one as well. Everybody needs an advance directive in place, right? That's sometimes called a living will, right? Advance directive / living will. And everybody needs a will and a trust. So those 5 documents, right? General power of attorney, medical power of attorney, HIPAA, right? Advance directive, and the last one is a will and a trust. Now, I believe people need trusts as well. I think it's cheaper than going to a probate. Remember, hypothetically, when I die, right? I had a client say, if I die. I don't know. So when I pass and we do a probate, that's open to the public. And anybody can show up, creditors, long lost friends. I've got some cousins I think will show up, right? We all have that, but it's a public, it's at the courthouse. And anybody can show up and hear and participate and see the pleadings. A trust is a box that we talked about, and nobody gets to look inside that box unless they're on the list, unless they're on the guest list. So one is a very public display and one is a very private display. So I highly recommend everybody, regardless of your situation or financial status, you need a trust to make sure your assets are divided, not on a public, in the courthouse where anybody can show up and contest it, right? We want to make it a private event where just you and your family know about that. So those are the 5 documents that you need. Some people say, do I need a will and a trust? Again, I say yes, but a will works. It's an effective tool, but a will is probated. Remember, if I don't have a will, gotta probate it. If I do have a will, gotta probate it. If I have a trust and all my assets are in the trust, it avoids probate. So the only way to avoid probate is a trust.
Brian, can you explain the timeline difference between probate and non-probate?
Yeah, so again, probate is a court process. In Oklahoma, it's very clunky and cumbersome and expensive. And it can take anywhere at the very, very fastest. We can do a short sale for realtors, but all the stars have to align for that, and that's about 4 months. And if your greatest asset, if you have it downsized with Connie yet, and you've got all your wealth tied up in your house, and it's not liquid, right? How are we gonna liquidate that pretty fast? I got bills to pay now, I need help now, it's stuck in the court system until it gets probated. That's if it goes fast. Average probate is around 7 months, 8 months, and that's if no one complains. I've got probates that we started in 2021 and 2022, and those assets are still frozen and locked up, and the court hasn't released them. A trust, in theory, a trust is instantaneously. When I die, and John's my trustee, as soon as he knows I'm dead, I pass the baton to him, and he's now trustee of all those assets, and he follows my instructions, my wishes inside the trust. It's instantaneous. Now, no bank is instantaneous, but with a few letters and a few conversations with the bank, we're talking a handful of days before he's able to pay bills and the machine is able to keep running.
Usually, obviously, the death certificate, that's one of the biggest holdups. Right now, we've had some that have taken a month, but usually it's a week or so, and then we're able to, we have to have the death certificate before we can do anything with your accounts. We don't really have any documents that you necessarily need, but, well, I will back up and say a couple things, but the beneficiaries, that's probably the most important thing. What you have listed as beneficiaries supersedes what you have in the will or the trust on your retirement assets. So if your trust says you're gonna divide the accounts equally, a third, but your IRA says it's going to Jimmy and Johnny, 50-50, that's what happens. So it's very important that you know what your beneficiaries, how you want them, and it changes. We change beneficiaries regularly, update. So it's, Johnny's not in the family anymore per se, and so you can change all of that. So it's very important that you review your beneficiary. So it's not really a document, but it's a part of your accounts.
And kind of, it's like letting the left and right hand know what each other's doing, right?
Right, I mean, obviously, if you've worked hard on establishing the trust, that's probably what you want. And you wanna make sure that your other accounts are in sync with it.
And going from I'll just throw this out there, with an example that happened with me. My parents, my dad passed, everything went to my mom. Then my mom passed, and it was divided between me and my sister. When it came to doing the beneficiary, this was my mother's, right? A lot of people will put their spouse as the beneficiary. I put my daughter, that's their grandchild. So this savings from my parents flows to Ashley because, and this may or may not, this is what our trust attorney advised, is because, let's say I do pass first and James remarries. He's the beneficiary and he dies, and it goes to her.
Then your mother and father's assets are now with
Another-
him and his new wife,
Nobody
pardon me,
that
but
we
him and
know.
his new wife, right?
Right. I just wanted to bring that out. That's what was suggested to me, that's what we did. I mean, James is totally okay with it. Well, yes, of course, that's their granddaughter.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
And while you're alive, you need groceries, pay bills, you can still pull from that. He
Absolutely.
benefits from that, but she understands, we want it to stay sometimes in our lineal descendants. We want it to stay in our
Yes.
family tree, and we don't want a divorce to pull
Right.
some of our assets.
Because that affects things, doesn't it?
That's a little bit.
That's where those mixed families come in.
Yeah.
The other thing on your non-retirement accounts, let's say you have a joint account at the bank or a joint account that's investing, you can designate a beneficiary on that bypasses probate as well. With the banks, it's called payment on death, or POD. In our industry, it's TOD, transfer on death. So if we see a lot of times people will come in, new prospects, and they've got a joint account, and it's just a joint account with rights of survivorship. That doesn't bypass probate. It has to say joint TOD. And so all of our clients, every account that we have is gonna bypass probate. So just make sure that your bank accounts,
Very good.
same
Yes.
thing. You have to go to the bank. It's a form that you sign and notarize at the bank, but it bypasses probate. It's a simple way of doing it. Sometimes you'll want to put it in the name of the trust, which that bypasses probate as well. Some attorneys,
Right, in my opinion, I've seen too many horror stories of people saying, I'm gonna take a shortcut and do the POD and TOD. Okay, ponder this. My wife and I are joint tenants with right of survivorship, and when I die, she becomes the sole owner. And if she did TOD, when she dies, our kids get it. She may not die instantly. She may not die quickly, but she may be incapacitated, and she needs what? The money in that account. But they can't get to it, my daughter can't get to it till mom dies. So what does that money do? It sits there. It cannot be used. We have a client on a state-run nursing home with millions of dollars in her bank account because she did a TOD and thought she didn't need to do estate planning. She is destitute. The courts say, not our problem, we cannot get to that money. She locked it up. She didn't put a succession plan in there. She said, when I die, it goes to my daughter. And now she's really in a bad spot because no one can get to her funds. So that's my horror story on TOD. It does work on some accounts, but if that's your only plan, is hey, when I die, my kids get it. Was there a step in between today and dying? Yeah, I might need
Yes,
it.
because we are living longer.
I might be incapacitated. So it is a great solution, maybe on an IRA or other accounts, but I just want you to be aware, it shouldn't be your only solution.
which is again, why you need to have the conversation with all parties.
Yes, absolutely. So, I want us to have plenty of time for your questions, and if there's only 2 questions left, If you'd like for them to answer those, please let us know. We'll talk about that. It talks about, how you can do it fairly. I think we kind of touched on that. It's really your choice, how you feel. And once it's written, then you don't have to be the bearer of the news, so to speak. Your trust is. What advice would you give if they're hesitant to bring it up as a topic? I think you've heard from both John and Brian that they prefer that you have conversations sooner rather than later, so
Yeah.
that it's covered.
When I have a reluctant client, just saying, well, I don't really need it, I remind them of what they went through when their parents passed away. And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, it was hell.
Yeah.
Do you want to put your kids through that? No. Okay, well then that's why you need to schedule an
Some of
appointment.
my clients say yes, and so,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've had several people that I've talked to. I'm staying where I am. I'm not gonna sell my house because it's gonna be my kid's problem. It's just gonna be their problem. And it's tough. It's tough. Because pre-planning only helps everybody. Being proactive only helps everybody. There's policies to plan your last event here on earth, which we have Directors Life here. Is one of our sponsors. A lot of people don't think about that, but it's such a gift to your kids to have all that.
for worse, my kids know what to do. That's your plan, is your kids know what to do? They know what I want.
They don't though. And I agree with you on there. That's, you think, oh, they know what I want, and they interview them, and the kids say, this is what my parents want. Yeah, I know what they want. This is what they want. They go tell the parent goes, who raised them? I was so confused. So we're gonna open it up for your questions. Let's open up the floor. Any Q&A here? Yes, sir.
So I have a question. We're kind of dealing with this in our family, but if you're in a irrevocable trust and it was signed off by both parties, my father passed away, his wife is still living, but we're not biological, okay? Does she have permission to give to other people that are not listed in the trust and utilize assets, disperse assets that were in the trust to buy other assets that are now no longer in the trust? How does that work? Because that's something that we're trying to figure out. We hope that when she passes, she doesn't own anything. That would be our ultimate goal because she utilized it for her health, right?
Right.
But the plan for both doesn't seem like they're
Right.
in sync.
I get those types of questions a lot, and it is a great question. You're talking about irrevocable trust, so typically, most estate planning is revocable, meaning just that, I can revoke it the day after I sign it, a year from now, 10 years from now, as long as I'm aware, I can revoke it. What he brought up was irrevocable, which means as soon as the ink is dry, it cannot be changed. It has to follow the rules. And the other, unfortunately, my answer to your question is it depends, which is what we learned our entire second year of law school. The answer to every question was it depends. And I think it depends on the retainer. I'm just kidding. It depends on the facts. It depends on the facts of that. And I'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one, but a lot of times there is some ways to maneuver. But sometimes you do see that. You do see somebody trying to get a plan in place and somebody pushing against that plan and not going against it, which sounds like it's happening. But I'd love to visit with you one-on-one here and more about that. So, what a great question. And a
Yes, and
comment.
thank you for repeating it. If you can't hear the question, let's, as we answer, kind of repeat what they asked for us. Yes? Jim?
A question for John. I've thought a lot about consolidating the finances into with a certain group of people or whatever, because it's spread out. One of my concerns is probably because I'm not smart enough, is that you have FDIC insurances that you kind of have to work with, so you've got banks involved with this stuff. I'd like to figure out a way to talk to someone that can be consolidated, still stay safe, but when the time will come, they have a one-stop shop to fix stuff.
And I want to say thank you for the service. He's also a veteran, which comes into play with a lot of these things. Yes, all of you that is, thank you, veterans.
So the question was, should we consolidate? because of insurance, mostly FDIC insurance. Of course, you're talking about banking there. Banking, if it's joint account, it's up to 500,000, 250 if you're single. If you've got money spread out over a lot of different, if you've got a lot of money, you would need to have it spread out to guarantee that FDIC insurance. With our accounts, there is no FDIC insurance, of course. We have had clients come in with multiple accounts from multiple different places, and as we get to this stage of life, we recommend that you consolidate just to make it easier for your family. Whether it be with us, whether it be with somebody else, it's having a one-stop shop that makes it easier for the family. Diversification is not having 10 accounts with 10 different advisors. Diversification is having diversified investments with any advisor. A lot of people think, well, I'm diversified because I've got an account over here at Merrill Lynch, I've got one at Charles Schwab, I've got one at Forge Financial, I'm diversified. Well, not if they're all invested the exact same way. So, does that help with your?
It does.
Yeah.
The main problem, some of these agencies like Charles Schwab, they have banking as well as investing, stocks, bonds, and I used to do a lot of option work, not so much anymore. But leaving that kind of account open at the end, I can see that could be an issue.
So again, I would.
Everybody has their own case,
Yeah,
right?
everybody's a little different, but I would have that conversation. First off, with your spouse, with your family, what's gonna make it easier for them. But as a personal decision, I would say most people would consolidate to one location. Whether it be with Charles, Schwab, or River. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I have all those documents that you talked about, and they're very complicated, and they're this big, and they're all stored over here in this place. And they all look really nice. But the question is, this little lady right here hates to deal with money.
No, I like to deal with money, I just don't want to know about it.
You like to spend the money. Right, Carolyn?
Yeah.
You like to spend the money. Good for you.
So, the question I have is, so who does, if something happens to me and you have all these bills to pay and these accounts to monitor and all this stuff, who do you talk to on a daily basis? I mean, an attorney's fees and so on are kind of astronomical. Have an attorney, yes, but then who carries it out and does it? Who pays this bill of this month? How does that work? You have a son who lives in California who is totally trustworthy, but not great.
Yeah, so there are, if I, so the question was, who pays the day-to-day bills? If something happens to one or both of us, who's gonna pay this bill or that bill? Who's gonna make sure those things are done? And so there are services, if I was designing that, I would say it would be your successor trustee, right? You would be first, you would be paying the bills as trustee of your own trust, and then you would name a backup quarterback, right? When you couldn't do it, who were you gonna tap in to pay the bills next? And they have the authority to step in and pay those bills. You would wanna be someone you trusted. Sometimes it can be a for-profit entity can step in and pay those bills, like a bill pay service, or it could be, you could hire somebody to be your trustee, right? There are professionals, attorneys that serve that in that capacity. But you're right, it can be very expensive, but you wouldn't want to pay an attorney his or her hourly rate to pay those bills. You would want to make it part of a bill pay service. Some trust departments have that ability to do that, or CPAs have that ability to do that, and even bookkeepers can step in and pay those day-to-day bills. But it would be technically a successor trustee.
So, let me ask you, I just want to clarify, Russell, your question is that while she's living,
Yeah,
if something, if you become incapacitated, or are you
Well,
saying you're
she's-
not?
She's not at all incapacitated.
Absolutely
Except
not.
when she disagrees with me, that's real.
Unless she disagrees with you.
But she's fully, I mean, she's fully, able to do things.
Sure.
But she.
Doesn't want to sit down and pay the bills each time.
That's not her personality.
Sure.
Style, or history, or her knowledge base. She's kind of like a bookkeeper kind of person. How do you hook them into all these other attorneys and financial planners?
Well, I'll tell you what my husband did for his money. His mother came and visited us from North Carolina, had a stroke, and she never left here. We had to find a community for her. She lived here for 4.5 years. After that, he went immediately when he was her power of attorney for everything because he was here and so he had them paid. We contacted each of the utility bills, and so they were paid, they were drafted out of your checking account. So she wouldn't have to worry about missing a day. I mean, lots of young people do that today, right? A lot of us pay our bills that way anyway right now. But they could be drafted, which would be a relief to her. It would just, they would be paid from the account. Does that help?
And one thing too, it happens, right? We deal with it a lot. We have a large book of business, large amount of clients, and it happens all the time. And when it does happen, we sit down with the surviving spouse and hopefully their child that has the financial power of attorney, somebody that they can rely on that can help them out. And we've had widowers come in and bring boxes of stuff, and we just spread it out on
You pay their bills.
we spread it out on the conference table and we walk them through it. Now, hopefully we don't have to do it every month, but we at least get them established on, okay, where is everything? How does it work? How do I give them the assurance that they can do this and let them know that we're here if they need help? But we don't physically do it, but we're gonna help them navigate that process.
And I have a question, we're making this all about us, but that's not right. But my question is we are in a situation, we have one living child who has adopted, not been married, and he's adopted 2 kids that we would not want that money touched by them. Well, then who do you put as your power of attorney?
Well, again, that's one of those personal questions, and so the way the state planning process works is that discussion happens, and it's an iteration. It could take several phone calls, several meetings to make sure we get it right exactly as you want, because you would need to try to, cover all the what ifs and work through that. And your state planning attorney can help you navigate, we can go down this road to a certain point, and we don't want to go any further, but we want to switch over here and go to this road. So it's really a personal situation how to navigate. I'd be happy to visit with you more one-on-one afterwards to brainstorm on it.
That's a good question. A lot of minds. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Curiosity question, FDIC. Joint account, 500,000. My spouse passed away, does that account revert back to 250 automatically?
If the spouse, if you have over 500 and someone passes, do they have to shift 250 someplace else, or?
I honestly don't know the answer to that because I'm not in the banking
That
side.
may be the banker, right?
But I believe that would make sense, yes. But I would double check with the bank, yes.
But it does go to that, that tax year, as long as they lived through a certain amount of time, then your taxes would be retroactive. We pay those in arrears. So, but probably diversifying it would be your best bet. Finding another bank that you trust. Yes, ma'am.
So if you need estate planning services, how do you start the process? Does it start with a consultation? Does it start with, how do you get that going?
What a great question. The question was, how do you get started with estate planning services? Is there a consultation or something like that? And yes, most law firms have a consultation. We're just kind of scratching the surface. Some people say, I want an estate plan, and you ask them a few more questions, and it turns out that's not really what they want. So yeah, our law firm in particular, we do a free consult where we sit down and make sure we're really wanting the same thing. Residents of Oklahoma, or have Oklahoma-based assets, or at least some connection to our state. Make sure, all those initial things are checked. And that consultation can take around 10, 15 minutes, pretty easy. We make sure we have the same, what the client needs, what we can deliver. And then we set up a design meeting. That design meeting for our law firm can take anywhere from 30 minutes, if it's really fast, to maybe even an hour and a half. Just a long time. time talking about the family situation. We send out a questionnaire in advance, which helps speed up the conversation a little bit, a lot of questions, things I didn't
And
think
to
about.
collect what they need.
Yeah, collect what they need. And then after that design meeting, our group sends out a rough draft a few weeks later. It's kind of a rough framed in thing, and then if it's perfect, great, we'll print it. I used to call when we got together and signed the documents, I used to call that an execution meeting, because we were executing the documents. But someone said, are you trying to speed this process up? No, sorry. So we call it a signing meeting now. We get together and sign the documents. And that can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then our firm, for our fee, we also do funding. So we build a trust, which is an empty box, and we work with our financial professionals and help make sure the assets are properly transferred or retitled into the trust. We'll work with your realtor, make sure you're taking possession of your house the correct way, and all your financial assets as well, including your 401k or IRA or other insurance beneficiaries are not controlled by the trust, but we want to make sure the beneficiary designations are correct inside there. So we just do kind of a scrub for that. So the initial consult is free.
And does that roll into the cost of the trust?
Yes, it does. Most attorneys do fixed fees for trust, and remember, you can negotiate that as much as you want to. Sometimes they have a fixed fee and they won't negotiate, but that initial consult is free. Make sure you're going the right direction, and then there's a design meeting, and then they present it after that.
Great. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's your experience with pets in a trust?
Pet trust, we can do a lot of pet trusts. We do that a lot. It's inside Oklahoma. It's now legal to do pet trust. A handful of years ago, it wasn't. So now, my dog Henry, who I hope he outlives me, but we can create a trust for him, and we can designate someone to be his caretaker, or somebody to be his financial steward. So we have a lot of flexibility with trust. A lot of attorneys have it's more common practice now to do this pet trust for one pet or multiple pets.
Because those are part of our family, right? Right? Yes, sir.
If you have a trust set up, all the documents are set up, you said in Oklahoma starting out, and you sell out and move to Arizona or Florida, what happens? What do you need to do?
Well, again, it all depends on the nuances there, but you have to be a resident of the state to form the trust there, where the assets are, and do a will. If you move, sometimes an Oklahoma-based trust is enforceable in Arizona or Texas, any other state. But sometimes for practical purposes, the other documents aren't, the will's not, the power of attorney is not. So if you move to a different state, you need to have a local attorney go over that and make sure it's working. The trust typically can move and be enforceable from other states, but all the other supporting documents sometimes aren't as effective. And it's kind of
That's a fabulous question for our age group, because so many of us, it's like, oh man, I want to retire on the beach, right? Or I want to retire in the mountains, or, right? That's a great question. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. This is Richard and Ann's, and he is at St. Anne's community.
We have 8 children. We have a setup where it's divided by age. What if one of our children died? We don't make changes on it. They have no
Children?
no spouse or no children. Does it automatically go to the 7th, or what happens?
If I would give my personal advice, you should name your new favorite attorney to inherit in that situation. That would be me. No, so a good estate planning attorney will ask you, now what would happen if one of these beneficiaries were to predecease? Would you like it to be shared among the others, or would you like it to go to charity, or how would you do it? So again, that's the question an estate planning attorney will ask, well, what if? And what if? We ask a lot of what
So
if.
there's like tiers in the trust.
That's right.
This is where I want it to go, but if that doesn't work out, it goes here. If that doesn't work out, it goes here.
Right, if one of my children were to predecease me, then I would want their money to go to this charity, or to go to the other beneficiaries. So it's really,
Ahead of time.
yes, you write it down ahead, cover all the what ifs, that's right.
But if you don't, then what happens?
If you, based on those the question was, if I've got 3 children,
What if I don't?
and one of my children, and I say it goes to my 3 kids, and one predeceases, and I do not create a plan for that, what happens? Well, based on that fact, and as I understand it, it would become part of their estate. And their estate, if they don't have an estate plan, it would have to be probated, and it would go pursuant to the statutes of Oklahoma. So you want to avoid that and be intentional where it goes, so we do the what if. And if my child doesn't predecease, right, they're still alive, we just ignore that paragraph and move on to the next one. So great question. So a good estate planning attorney will keep doing all the what ifs and all the what ifs. The last one that we do is a contingent remainder. And what we say is, okay, you decide to go big, you take all of your 8 kids and you fly them on a plane to Hawaii, and all your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, everybody are on the same plane, and there's nobody left in your family tree. Where's the money going? So we do that contingent remainder planning at that point. Sometimes it's a charity or a church, or you just say, I don't care, give it to my distant cousin in California. But a good attorney will run that far down the list.
Very good. So please fill out the evaluation form for us and turn that in either to Emily and Terry. Stand up and wave your hand, and it's Brooklyn's back over here. So you can hand your eval to either one of these ladies. And if you would like more of the schedules, please, Emily's going to be at the back holding them. Terry has some at the table. And please visit our sponsors. Get to know them and see what they're going to be. They're going to be throughout this year. They'll be up here speaking, and you'll get to know them too. But they always have something fun and new for you to visit them and take with you some great information to take with you. Thank you again for giving us your time. We appreciate it. We don't take it lightly. We're honored that you're here. And please sign up for next month. It's Time for Wellness, and there's our speakers. Mark Coke is one of our sponsors, and Jeff Ains is one of our sponsors, and Chip Paul, I actually went through the scan with him. So he actually did it to me. So we're going to talk about that, about his wellness program that he does. It's totally natural wellness program. So it's all about being well so that you can live on for years.